the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccer Files Canada. Welcome to the short version of Series 19, looking at the groups and teams of the 2023 Asian Cup, played in Qatar in January 2024. This episode is looking at Group C: Iran, UAE, Palestine, and Hong Kong. Here we go. It's the International Soccer Preview. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Kiera.
Yeah, and in this short version here, we're replacing parts 1 and 2 of the full-length version with a short summary of each team's history and a look at their recent form.
In the full-length version, Connor and Kevin introduce the teams in part 1 with some information about each country, their location, population, and so on. Then in part 2 is a history of each team with a deep dive into Asian Cup Finals history. They then look into performances in recent tournaments and end with an overview of the players.
Yeah, so in this short version, we're going to tag on part 3 from that full-length version, which is Connor and my discussion of the prospects of each team.
So if this short version grabs your interest, keep an eye out for that full-length version and the players version, which will come out later in 2023.
Stay tuned at the end for more information on accessing our media casts.
Okay. So let's get into the 4 teams of Group C of the Asian Cup Finals. These are Iran, United Arab Emirates or UAE, Palestine, and Hong Kong.
All right, so let's begin with Iran. And Iran's 3 Asian Cups in a row from 1996 to, 3 Asian Cups in a row, Asian Cup titles, that is, from 1968 to 1976, saw them the kings of Asia, even if that didn't reflect in their World Cup play. They entered that competition in late 1974. No, hang on, they entered that competition late in 1974 and only won qualification until 1998. Meanwhile, they continued to finish in the top 3 in Asian Cups throughout the 80s and 90s, with the exception of a poor performance in 1992, where they failed to pass the group stage for the only time in their history. From the turn of the millennium in particular, they have been a rung below the top teams in the region, finishing in the quarterfinals of the Asian Cup and finishing anywhere from 2nd to 4th in their final World Cup qualifying group, even when they did reach the Cup. At the world level, they seem a bit weaker still never having passed the group stage of any of the 6 World Cups they've reached, although other teams in the region have done so.
Most recently, Iran does seem a top-tier team in the region. In 2019, they went past the quarterfinals in the Asian Cup for the first time since 2004. Also, they have not only qualified for the last 3 World Cups, but finished first in the final qualifying group ahead of South Korea. They do need a better final result to cement in, though, passing a World Cup group stage or winning an Asian Cup. Or at least reaching the final, because that's something they haven't done since 1976.
All right, that is Iran. And our second team is UAE, United Arab Emirates. And UAE joined the Asian Cup in 1980 and completed their first World Cup qualification in 1986. It wasn't long until they had their first peak in form, reaching the World Cup in 1990 and finishing in the top 4 of the 1992 and 1996 Asian Cups, which included their best finish, second place as host in 1996. Though they didn't reach the Asian Cup in 2000, which was their only non-qualification, they did reach a final playoff in the 2002 World Cup qualification. However, after that, they looked weak They were knocked out of the group stage of Asian Cups and were seemingly out of their depths in the final round of World Cup qualification. They did not even reach the final round in 2014, but followed that up with a good performance in the 2015 Asian Cup, finishing third there. That initiated a second strong period in recent times.
Yeah, as you alluded to, UAE is a second-tier team, but there is a range of strength within that. Recently, they are at the upper end of it, initiated by that third place finish in the 2015 Asian Cup. At that end, they are capable of beating top-tier teams, as they showed with an away win over Japan to start the final round of 2018 World Cup qualifying, and a win over Saudi Arabia towards the end. They also beat Australia in the quarterfinals of the 2019 Asian Cup on their way to a semifinal finish, and came third in 2022 World Cup qualifying, beating South Korea in the final game there. But second also includes some inconsistency, and they have shown that in the same campaigns with losses to Iraq and Vietnam and ties within Thailand and Palestine. Also, 2 group stage exits in the last 2 Gulf Cups show that their recent improvement isn't without lapses.
All right, so UAE, the second team in the group, and the third team is Palestine. So we'll begin with a summary of their history. Palestine did not seem a feeble enough team to join the AFC Challenge Cup, which is a tournament established in 2006 for weak teams in the Asian region, specifically teams in need of development. Their World Cup performance from their first entry in 2002 showed some competitiveness, although that declined by 2010. Their Asian Cup qualifications were weaker, but not quite feeble. Nevertheless, they did not overpower that competition, the AFC Challenge Cup, the way North Korea did, and indeed Palestine struggled in it at first. Perhaps the Cup fulfilled its mission of developing teams in Palestine's case, because their steady improvement from 2012 saw them win that Cup in 2014 and qualify for the Asian Cup from 2015 onward. Even in the Cup, after losing all games in 2015, they tied 2 second-tier teams in 2019 and now comfortably qualify over third-tier and even weak second-tier teams. Their rankings reflect the improvement, going from around 150 in ELO rankings steadily up to 97 by 2023.
Yeah, Palestine seems to have moved from being a third-tier team to a weak second-tier team, not reaching the final round of World Cup qualifying or passing the group stage of their Asian Cup, and the local WAFF, or Western Asia Football Federation, and Arab Cups, leaves them short of being fully second-tier, although competitive results with stronger second-tier and even the odd top-tier team suggest that they're not too far off. Comfortable qualification campaigns for the expanded Asian Cup in 2019 and 2023 also reflect their stronger current form. Those were qualifications over third-tier teams, and they are at best competitive with second-tier teams like Oman, Jordan, and Syria, tying them rather than beating them.
Okay, so Palestine is the pot 3 team here, and the pot 4 team is Hong Kong. And Hong Kong had success in the early years of the Asian Cup, appearing in the finals of 3 of the first 4 editions, with third place as their best finish when they hosted the first Cup in 1956. Of questionable strength even then, though, they have fallen to being a third-tier team for most of their history, characterized by their inability to reach the final round of World Cup qualifying and to reach the Asian Cup. Within that range, they swung from being an almost feeble team and a respectably competitive, from being an almost feeble team to a respectively competitive team, sometimes even swinging very quickly.
In looking at their recent performance, they have dropped about 10 points in the ranking, but their performance actually seems a little stronger. They have been fairly consistent over third and fourth tier teams Malaysia and Cambodia, and taken off point second tier teams Bahrain and China. With the Asian Cup expanding, such results were enough to secure their long-awaited return to the Asian Cup in 2023.
All right, and that brings us to the end of the of this summary and look at recent performances.
And now we're going to move into part 3 from the full-length discussion, where Connor and Kevin will discuss the prospects of these teams.
We usually kind of start by whether we agree or disagree with the odds, but maybe we'll go with the FIFA rankings here that have them separated by a lot. And do you see it that way? The teams are pretty much 1, 2, 3, and 4 according to pot order, or do you see a challenge in here?
I probably mostly agree with the pot order. I do think Iran are the strongest team here. I don't really see them being threatened for first place. And I do see Hong Kong, this is their first appearance in 55 years. I don't see them really challenging kind of any of the top 3, certainly at the group level. Palestine and UAE, we mentioned that they're close in ELO, a little bit further in FIFA. I already said I kind of maybe agree with FIFA a little bit more. I think there's some room between second and third. I think, Palestine, an improving team, are capable of a surprise. But UAE also had a pretty good tournament recently. So, kind of tough to say, but what do you say in terms of the FIFA rankings?
Yeah, I really think it'll finish by pot order here. I don't see. I don't agree with ELO that the Palestine is as close to UAE as they are. I do see, UAE maybe lapsing to the point of giving up a tie, but I think that's as much as they would give up. They didn't have a good Gulf Cup of Nations there. They lost to Bahrain and Kuwait. And I'm just looking at the Arab Cup here, where they, I guess they weren't bad, but they didn't impress either. So I do see a bit of shudder in the UAE, but I really just see them giving up a tie. Iran, on the other hand, I would be really surprised if they tied any of these teams, because they've improved in the sense of consistency over the past, 10 years, really. And I don't think they'll give up a point.
Yeah. So do you see any change in the pot order likely, or where do you see that likeliest, perhaps?
I kind of came into the tournament thinking Hong Kong might challenge Palestine, but we actually skipped the sections in the podcast on recent fixtures, and Hong Kong haven't played many, and we skipped the section on players too. So a lot of their veterans didn't seem to be playing in recent games. So it made me a bit skeptical about Hong Kong. They have improved. I guess you could say they've improved. They were a bit unlucky in their grouping in 2019. So I put their failure to qualify down to that more than I do to any improvement in form for 2023. But when I looked at the players and the recent form, I became a bit skeptical whether Hong Kong could actually challenge even Palestine. I think they would do great, really, just to get a draw or even respectable score lines in their losses here, but not enough really to challenge even for third place.
Yeah, almost all of Hong Kong's players play domestically. It's actually a similar story for UAE, but the Hong Kong league is not that strong. So I agree. I think Hong Kong a point is probably unlikely, partly because of Palestine's recent improvement. And then I would probably agree with you that the UAE, not enough to challenge Iran, but probably should be ahead of Palestine in this group.
Yeah, I mean, it is true that UAE's players all play domestically, but I think the reason for that is they get paid well in the UAE, so they don't really have any motive to leave and play in outside leagues. They're a bit unique that way, but Saudi Arabia and UAE, I don't think they really have ambitions to get players onto teams in Europe, even though that would add a bit of status to the player's resume, just because they get paid well at home, probably couldn't get paid as well outside their country. Whereas Hong Kong, it's more of the players aren't really good enough to play outside. But yeah, I didn't mean to bring this down to players, though. In terms of the team's history, I think it's pretty much according to the pot order, and I think at best we would see a tie. I'd be very surprised to see, for example, Palestine beat UAE or Iran, or one of the lower teams beating one of the stronger teams.
Yeah, so a very a 9-6-3-0 points total you think is kind of a likely outcome?
Yeah, I mean there is room. I'm always down for a bit of an upset. I just don't see it in this group. But I mean, it would be fun to see Hong Kong, challenge for second place. I would love it, but I don't see it in the history that we've talked about, or in the players that I've looked at too.
Yeah. Iran are ranked second among Asian teams. Do you see them having a chance of winning the entire tournament?
Oh, that's a good question to bring into it, because honestly, I'm trying to stretch out the discussion here because I feel that there's not that much to talk about. But that is a more interesting question. And yeah, I think Iran would disappointing to finish in the quarterfinals for 3 tournaments in a row before 2019. Semi-final is certainly kind of a more apt finish for them, but I think they're capable of winning the whole thing. How about you?
Yeah, I think they have a shot at it. I mean, they won 3 tournaments in a row, but not since. I think kind of Iran, their World Cup consistency and performances kind of show that they are one of the top tier teams in Asia, and it's been a long time for Iran. They're kind of due a win, so. They've got good players. I think they've got a strong team this year. I think there's no reason why they kind of couldn't go all the way.
I agree. I mean, I think they finished first in the final round qualifying of the World Cup the last 2, maybe even 3 times, and it's a bit hard on them too that they haven't passed a group stage of the World Cup. A bit unlucky there. True, a bit flat in 2022. Really, they were very close in 2018. So I think they are at the level of Japan and South Korea in this region. So they could take the title.
Yeah, UAE, had a really good 2019 where they 2019 Asian Cup. They got all the way to the semifinals there before heavy loss to Qatar. I probably don't see them getting past the getting as far this time, but they'll be they're playing very close to home, which could be a bit of an advantage. But yeah, I see Iran. They're really the only kind of top first tier team in this group, and I think really the only team with a realistic shot at going kind of far or all the way.
Yeah, I mean, if I do see potential for a lapse here, I would put it to UAE. I mean, they were host of the tournament in 2019, and then they haven't looked that great since, especially in the Gulf Cup. There, I'm not sure whether they send their best players to the Gulf Cup, but I think they do. Mm-hmm. The other thing, Connor, too, is that 4 of the 6 groups will have a third place team going through. So I think maybe Palestine snatching a tie off UAE. Or even Hong Kong could see them through in first. Do you think that's possible? I think a team would need more than 3 points.
3 points would probably get some teams through.
Yeah.
If they beat Hong Kong by a decent margin and kind of keep the scores low in their other games, that gives them a shot, and maybe that would be their, a bit of a name. I'm sure they would like to tie UAE, but, I think maybe they could get through with 3 points and a decent goal differential.
Yeah, that's going to be tough against Iran. I don't see any of the teams. We saw that UAE has only scored 1 goal over their 13 games against Iran, so it'll be that much tougher for Palestine and Hong Kong. They probably won't give up a goal. Iran is Iran a team that runs up the score? I'm not sure.
They're capable of it. They're capable of it in this group, and I think might want to lay down lay down a marker. Yeah, you make a good point. I mentioned UAE getting to the semifinals in the last cup, but of course that they did have home field advantage. I think Iran are a cut above the other teams. Yeah, and are capable of 9 points.
Yeah, I think Iran did run up the score in I think it was 2002 qualifying. They had some like 31-0 or something over very weak teams. But I think I'm right in saying that. I'm not dead sure. But I think generally, actually, they're not a team that really runs up the score. So it's possible for a third place team to go through here, even if they do just get 3 points. But I'm sure Palestine and even Hong Kong will be really pushing for a tie against one of the top teams to get that 4 points.
Yeah, just a footnote, in 2022 World Cup qualifying, which is also qualifying for this tournament, they put 24 goals past Cambodia in 2 games. So they showed no restraint there.
Okay, well, that pretty much answers my question. I was going back 20 years, and I just needed to go back a year. Well, if that is the case, then that may make the goal differences too big for one of those teams to qualify as a third place team.
Yeah,
because goal difference probably is a big factor there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm tired of your equivocating, and so I want you to lay it out flat. How is this group going to end?
Well, I think we're in agreement here that it'll stick with pot order. We see a clear division between each of the teams. So I say Iran, UAE, Palestine, Hong Kong.
Yeah, I wish there was a bit more to discuss about the. I think we stretched it out as much as we could, but that's the pot order I see too. Hopefully, some of the other groups will give a little bit more to argue about.
That's right.
Okay, well, that's it for Group C. So you see our links on the bottom, and check the show notes if you're listening to the podcast, because we have a lot of information that we put in there that will lead you to other things. And meanwhile, Colin, we'll see you for Group D.
See you then.
We originally planned to tag on our past, present, and future plans for the MediaCast, but we have instead decided to put a link to that 10-minute video in the show notes. It covers what we're working on and what we plan to do over the next 9 months. We'd like to thank Naver Abidchan and Pixabay for the wonderful music you hear in this MediaCast. The title is called Arabic Trap.